It is the 28th of April 2014. Many thanks for joining us on Ebro Africa News. I am Anette Akisa. We have a lot lined up for you, and we'll start off our bulletin in Egypt, where an Egyptian court on Monday sentenced Muslim Brotherhood leader Mohammed Badie and 682 others to death. The same court also reversed 492 death sentences out of the 529 it passed in March, commuting most of the death sentences to life in prison. Now, the defendants sentenced on Monday were accused of involvement in the murder and attempted murder of policemen in the southern Minya province on August 14th, the day police killed hundreds of ousted Islamist President Mohamed Morsi's supporters in clashes in Cairo. Emotions were high outside the court after the ruling. Some 1,300 Muslims fearing attack by militias have left the Central African capital Bangui under heavy guard, deepening the religious divide in the strife-torn country.
Aboard 18 lorries, the refugees left around midday, accompanied by a large contingent of African peacekeepers, headed for the relative safety of the north.
We are almost ready to go. We've worked all week. Now we have 1,300 people who want to leave. 1,000 to Moyen Sido, that's the city of Sido on the car side, and 300 for Cabo.
RCA et 300 pour Cabo, le village de Cabo.
It's sad, but in any case we are forced to leave. This is our home, but given the situation of the country, we are forced to go rather far to be safe. We'll come back when calm has been restored.
Tens of thousands have already fled northwards, almost emptying the south of the country to join those of their own faith. They hope to return someday.
That's what we hope now, because our land is here, my house is here, all of that is here. I have come back here to work.
Muslims had been stranded in the PK-12 ghetto for 5 months as transport failed to materialize, and amid debate over whether the mass exodus of Muslims from the capital would make peace even more elusive. PK-12 is completely surrounded by a hostile community, and Muslims had come under frequent attacks. Residents said 22 people had died since December, of whom 18 were victims of violence. The sectarian violence erupted in the former French colony after mainly Muslim rebels of Seleka Alliance seized power for 10 months in March last year, and rogue elements carried out terrible atrocities against civilians.
On to matters religion now. Around the world, Catholics celebrated the dual canonization of Popes John the 23rd and John Paul II. Take a look.
In Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Manila, and of course Rome, devout Catholics celebrate the historic double canonization of two popes, Pope John the 23rd and Pope John Paul II. In Buenos Aires, Archbishop Mario Poli presided over a mass to honor the two popes as they enter sainthood.
John Paul II, pray for us. I invite you all to say this. St. John the 23rd and St. John Paul II, pray for us.
In Sao Paulo, churchgoers carried a large picture of now Saint John Paul II. To celebrate John Paul II's heritage, some of the churchgoers dressed in traditional Polish clothing and performed folkloric dances.
I think that is great, because you don't only have Polish, but also Brazilians participating in the celebration. That is what is really wonderful.
In Manila, Filipino Catholics watched a live broadcast of the canonization of Pope John Paul II, who was much loved in Asia's biggest Roman Catholic country. Around 200,000 pilgrims in John Paul's homeland of Poland reacted with joy as their most famous native son became a saint.
Now, the leader of the United Nations Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons mission in Syria says that the chemical watchdog is discussing mission to check out reports of chlorine gas attacks.
The leader of the UN OPCW mission in Syria says the UN may send a fact-finding mission to Syria over chlorine gas allegations.
When it comes to the allegations of use of chlorine gas in recent events and over the recent months, this is a matter under discussion in The Hague and directly by OPCW with the Syrian authorities. There is a discussion on a possible fact-finding mission, and this is where matters are now.
Amateur video Reuters cannot independently verify, said to be shot on April 11th, purports to show a chlorine gas attack in the Hama province of Syria. Government forces and rebel groups have exchanged blame for the attack. More and more of these videos have been appearing recently. Activist video said to be filmed on April 21st purports to show a separate toxic chemical attack in Idlib province in which some 400 people were allegedly affected. Syria's remaining stockpile of declared chemical weapons are in a location near Damascus, the Syrian government says.
Moving on, the son of the late former dictator Muammar Gaddafi and others, including former intelligence chief Abdullah Senussi, appeared on Sunday by video conferencing for a trial in the capital, Tripoli. The trial is seen as a test of democracy transition.
Saif al-Islam, the most high-profile of Gaddafi's 7 sons, looked confident on the link from a jail in the western town of Zintan, where he has been held up since he was captured by former rebels. The rebels refused to hand over Saif, saying they do not trust the government to ensure he won't escape, but have agreed to have him tried in a government court. 22 former Gaddafi officials were present in the court inside the heavily guarded Al-Adba prison. 8 others joined via video link from the western city of Misrata. The judge took about 20 minutes to read out the charges, accusing the defendants of giving orders to arm militias, kill peaceful protesters, and locking up thousands of political opponents. They are also charged with ordering power cuts to rebel-held cities and damaging oil facilities during the 8-month uprising against Gaddafi in 2011. Libya struggled to establish basic institutions and the rule of law since Gaddafi's 4-decade rule ended in 2011, with brigades of militias and former rebels challenging the authority of the weak central government. The International Criminal Court and other human rights organizations worry about the fairness of Libya's justice system, although the government won the right last year to try Gaddafi's former spy chief at home instead of the ICC in The Hague. If convicted, some of the defendants could face the death penalty. Several defendants, including Senussi, complained they had not been given enough access to lawyers. The court adjourned the session until May 12th after rejecting petitions from lawyers to release several defendants.
Egypt's health minister has announced emergency measures to contain the potential spread of the deadly Middle East respiratory syndrome after it was announced on Saturday that the first Egyptian case had been discovered. The disease has already claimed 90 lives.
Egyptian Health Minister Adel Adawi convened a meeting of health officials and other experts to look into preventive measures to deal with the so-called coronavirus, which he said was contracted by an Egyptian citizen who had recently returned from Saudi Arabia. The virus, which can cause coughing, fever and pneumonia, has spread from the Gulf to Europe and has already caused over 90 deaths.
As you know, Egypt has received a case yesterday, or the day before yesterday, of a 27-year-old man who works in Saudi Arabia and is suffering from the coronavirus. The case has been quarantined based on information from his family members who said that he had spent time with some relatives in Saudi Arabia who are affected by the coronavirus. He was directed to the fever hospital in Abbasia and samples were extracted as agreed upon.
Adawi said there was heightened concern about the potential spread of the virus because many Egyptians will be making religious pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia during the coming months.
أننا قادمون على
We are reaching a stage where the number of pilgrims is increasing, followed by the Hajj season. Saudi Arabia has the highest number of coronavirus-infected people. Consequently, there are certain procedures that will be followed when it comes to tracking the virus. Thank God we have a high-quality tracking system so that all citizens are assured of knowing what we are tracking, all symptoms that are created by this virus.
Although the number of mass infections worldwide is fairly small, the more than 40% death rate among confirmed cases and the spread of the virus beyond the Middle East is keeping scientists and public health officials on alert.
What we care about is spreading awareness of the travelers, and there will be coordination between travel agencies that are transporting the Umrah pilgrims to and from Saudi Arabia. This is to have complete awareness of whoever is suffering from the high fever, or if there is a possibility of being infected by a respiratory disease, to present himself to the quarantine administration to take all preventative.
He said extra measures to identify those infected and raise awareness amongst the other travelers will be taken. Saudi authorities have invited 5 leading international vaccine makers to collaborate with them in developing a mass vaccine. But virology experts argue that this makes little sense in public health terms.
Elsewhere, an unprecedented shutdown of Mount Everest after the worst ever accident on the world's highest peak has left grieving Nepalese Sherpa guides and their families fearing for their livelihoods. The avalanche on April 18th that tore through a group of Sherpas left 16 people dead and 3 others seriously wounded.
The resulting labor dispute with Sherpas clamoring for better death and injury benefits from the Nepalese government, which reaps huge revenues from the multi-million-dollar climbing industry, saw scores of expeditions cancelled. The effective closure of the mountain this season dealt a huge blow to the international climbers who paid large sums for the chance to fulfill their dreams of scaling the 8,848-meter-high peak. But Sherpas, who are often the sole breadwinners for their extended families, face a more desperate problem, with many left struggling to make ends meet in a country mired in poverty. As the climbing business has grown in Nepal, Sherpas, an ethnic group thought to be of Tibetan origin from the eastern Himalayas, have become indispensable as guides and porters for expeditions. The most famous Sherpa is Tenzing Norgay, who made the first summit of the Everest with New Zealand mountaineer Edmund Hillary in 1953. The term today is used for all local guides who assist Himalayan expeditions, earning between $3,000 to $6,000 during the 2 to 3 month season, a relatively good wage in a country where hundreds of thousands of others are forced overseas in search of work. The community numbers 600, ranging from cooks on Everest to guides and elite ice doctors who fix the ropes and ladders before climbers tackle the peak.
On to sports matters now. Uruguayan football players Edison Cavani and Luis Suarez are considered today as 2 of the best players in the world, and they have quite a lot in common. The 2 of them are 27-year-old strikers born in Uruguay, the small 3 million person Latin American country, and from the same town of Salto in the northwest. As the World Cup quickly approaches, Salto remembers with pride the early life of the 2 Salteno players who have gone to become international football stars. Take a look.
Salto, a quiet and remote town of 120,000 in the northwest of Uruguay, just over the river from Argentina. It's a town few outside the small Latin American country would have heard of if it wasn't for the fact that international football stars Edison Cavani and Luis Suarez were both born there 27 years ago, to the great pride of the Salteños.
Walking in the street, you'll see that all the shirts read Cavani or Suarez. It's them, not the team, that make people such big fans.
Salto is a small place with no opportunities, but Cavani showed me that even if you are from Salto or from anywhere else, anything can be achieved.
Edison Cavani is the son of former player and coach Luis Cavani. Brought up in a middle-class neighborhood, he attended this private Catholic school. Daniel Baldassari, who has worked as the school's playground assistant for 33 years, remembers the young Cavani's passion for football.
He already loved playing when he was very young. He was very brave. He would play as if it were his last game. He gave it all. Sometimes we had to punish him because he liked playing and winning so much that he could get a bit feisty.
Luis Suarez was born into a much more humble family than his teammate Cavani in one of Salto's poorest neighborhoods. He attended this local school from the age of 5 to 7 before moving to Montevideo with his family. According to Suarez's former baby football coach, who saw him play at just 5 years old, his gift for the sport was already obvious.
You could see that he was going to play well, because even as a child he had this awareness of knowing where to place himself on the football pitch.
Cavani and Suarez now play for top-flight international teams, Paris Saint-Germain and Liverpool, earning millions. In this World Cup, Uruguay is counting on their talent as strikers to take the team as far as possible. It's a responsibility which Cavani's father says they are ready to handle.
The two have more experience, more practice. I think they're going to be much more important players than they were in the last World Cup.
Tonight, like most nights, players for Cavani's former Salto football club are in training. And thanks to Luis Suarez and Edison Cavani, they are now able to believe that they too might see their footballing dreams come true.
Well, that story wraps up our bulletin. Be sure to join us at 9 p.m. I am Anette Akisa. Have a lovely afternoon.